I thought it'd be interesting. I had spoken a little last week about, we're talking about the phases of the Tikkun. If you remember, I said that the phases of mankind, of the whole actual world history, is really nothing more than the different stages of Tikkun to rectify creation. We know what Tikkun is. Tikkun is to bring the version really back, his presence back. That's really what it is. To reveal reality, because we don't really live in a reality that we perceive. So the Tikkun really is is this on? Oh. So the Tikkun is to relive reality, that the Russian should reappear. But the reappearance of the Russian is so different, obviously, than what he was all 1,000 years and so on. And also mentioned that the different stages. First stage is pre-Adamic, which means before Adam, which is the Bria with the Olam HaNeshamas, and they're all waiting to come down. Then the second stage was Adam for the first 6 hours. That was the second stage, and he's the one that's going to attempt to do the Tikkun. He failed. Then I mentioned the third stage was his two sons, Cain and Hevel. It doesn't look like that. It looks like it's just a passing story, but really.
But it looks like.
What?
It looks like
a passing story.
Like Cain is animal altogether. It looks like he's animal.
Well,
it doesn't look like he's gonna do the Tikkun.
He was a great person, though. He's talked to God directly.
Yeah,
happened to be. But if you read it, it just makes no sense.
You can't.
He committed murder, so
That's not just murder. Such an arrogant murder. Such a crazy murder. Probably. I'm sure we're missing something here.
Anyway, so that would be a third phase, and a fourth phase would then be basically the 2,000 years between Cain and Hevel, and then Avram. So that's number 4. Number 4. The fifth stage, of course, is the Ovis. The Ovis, and until Matan Torah. And then there's really a sixth stage, but it's so fleeting that you wouldn't even recognize that. It's a stage where the Banshim went to the Umas HaOlam and want to re-establish their ability to do Tikkun.
Oh, it was for real? It wasn't just a medrash?
No, it's a real. It's a medrash, but the medrash is for real. Yeah, it really happened. The question is how it happened is a different story. We don't find it recorded in any history books that God went. So there are different versions of how it happened. One is where the Banshim looked at the Umas HaOlam and he measured the potential for even accepting his offer, and he saw no way. And he saw that, and they mentioned the different averas. Ishmael was into Zimon, Asa was into murder, each guy was Geneva, whatever. Anyway, so that's one version of how it happened, that he measured the potential of even accepting his offer. And another is where he had, in the different nations, he had actually people speaking about the truth, and so on, and they were rejected. However it happened, we're not really clear, obviously, how it really happened. But what it is, the attempt to re-establish a Masakein itself is a Tekufa. It's a very important Tekufa, So what's that, number 6?
The Til Churban problem.
6, yeah. Okay, so that failed. So number 7 is where now the Jews are number 7 is where the Jews are now the exclusive Masakein. They're the only ones. And it's no longer given over to a nation. If anybody, it's open to people, but as an individual. It's no longer a nation besides the Jewish nation that can do the Tikkun. Although an individual in any given nation can.
No, but they're not it's not that they can be Masaking. They can choose to join up with the nation of Masaking.
Yeah, exactly. You're just saying a different word.
So in that sixth period, then
the entire nation would have been granted the power of Tikkun.
Two Klal
the whole, so you would have 2 Klal Yisraels, exactly.
But at that point, you can't have that.
What was that?
At that point, you can't have that anymore.
No, it's over with. Only an individual can join Klal Yisrael, but a nation cannot. A nation cannot partner, as they say, with Klal Yisrael to do the Tikkun.
Was Klal Yisrael given at this time?
Was who?
Klal Yisrael themselves, were they a given? And Hashem was just going to see if anybody else want to join up.
Oh yeah, they were given, sure. Yeah. They were given, yeah.
The sixth stage is Mashiach. Is that when
No,
Mashiach?
no. The sixth stage, which I'm saying now, was what I say was the others. Yeah, it's the others.
No.
No.
The sixth stage was
Almost all of them.
See, it was
the Ummah Sa'ilam, the
before
feeding stage.
Adam, Cain and Hevel, the 2,000 years, the Ummah Sa'ilam, that's really what it is. You had the others, then you had the attempt for to bring back the Ummah Sa'ilam, and then we have the rest of the 4,000 years, where we are now. Okay? 7 stages. Okay? Which is interesting. And they're all predicated on one concept called the Tikkun process. This is the process of Tikkun. And what is Tikkun? As I said, is to bring the Shekhinah, divine presence, back into the world or back into reality.
What is the difference between the stage where Abraham Avinu and his children exclusively do the Tikkun and the stage...
What about that stage?
No, what's the difference between that stage and when Klal Yisrael as a Ummah, as a nation, becomes the exclusive nation?
There is no
Tikkun?
difference.
It's the same, right?
Yeah, it's the
Abraham's
same.
children or Klal Yisrael
Yeah, I didn't
nation?
distinguish that. I said
Okay.
that, right? I just made that it was a reattempt for the Ummah Sa'ilam to do the Tikkun. But once it was given to Avraham Avinu, then that just continues until now.
So why do you call this a 7th stage then?
Which,
You said the 7th stage is when Klal Yisrael as a nation has the exclusive mission to do Tikkun.
yeah, I mean, I could say it's number
Continuation of 4.
5,
Right.
just continued.
Okay.
I could say that, but it's a significant moment in history, okay, when people are excluded from the Tikkun, not only do the Tikkun. It means that they have different neshamas. A goy has a nefesh, but it's not a neshama. It's not like the Jew. A goy has a nefesh part of a neshama, but it's not like a Jew. Therefore, he cannot do the Tikkun. You see, and so that's significant when they have to remain permanently in that place. That's true.
Was that the tzipah?
Anyway, I mean,
Was that the
I'm not
tzipah
going to
that they
quibble.
got?
You can consider it 5 or 7. I'm just adding because to me that's a
What is
significant idea.
what is the relationship between our avodah, which is to get closer to Hashem,
Yeah.
and the goal of the world to do Tikkun?
Same thing.
There is no goal. The world cannot do Tikkun.
No, the goal of creation of Bria is to reach Tikkun
Yes.
on a global level.
Yeah.
But on an individual level, my goal is to get closer to Hashem, or my goal is to do Tikkun.
Same thing.
Why?
There are many. It's like a diamond. There are different facets to a diamond. You could look at the Tikkun in many different ways. You know, you could look at it in terms of that you achieve shlemus. God comes back. The universe changes physically and so on. There are many different aspects of Tikkun. You know. But essentially what it means, the essential idea, is that you experience the Rebbeinu Shalom in a way which is not conceivable. That's really Olam Haba. That's called the Tikkun HaSholem. Okay? The total rectification of the Bria. You know, there is a Tikkun HaSholem with the Mashiach and so on. But the real total rectification is when the Rebbeinu Shalom is completely revealed to you as much as possible, depending on your state. And that's Olam Haba.
So it has to do with me, and it has to do with the whole world as well.
Yeah, but the Tikkun but there's a Tikkun in the Bria itself. The Tikkun HaSholem is when the Bria has a Tikkun. You see, and that will be by the Mashiach L'David. Then there is nothing else to do. It's been done. In other words, the actual avodah itself has been done. The experience of the avodah, the total experience of the avodah, will be in Olam Haba. So you have to divide the two. There's the actual job, and there's the reward for the job. So the job itself ends after the year 6,000. That's it. It's over with. But the reward for the job will not be felt until Olam Haba. the real reward for the
So is
job.
that why it's in that when Mashiach, before Mashiach comes, it's going to be preceded by Gog and Magog, where it's going to be like Gog.
Well, that's part of the avodah. Yeah. Anyway, so we are now up to 7 stages, right? Then there's the last stage, and I would like to talk about that because we live in very incredible times today. What's going on? Shmuel and Edom and so on. You know, we live in what's called the termination phase. That's the end. We are in the termination
You're
phase.
talking about all the loose ends, just
Yeah, but you have to understand what the loose ends are. Yeah, we are in the term. It means the tikkun has been done when it's like what it's like. It's like imagine there's a play. There's Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Yes, most plays have 3 acts, maybe 2 acts, whatever. There's a plot. There's a development of characters, and there's a background, all kinds of stuff, right? And then an act usually is divided by scene. Scene 1, Scene 2, Scene 3. That's the way plays are divided, right? So the termination phase is Act 3, Scene 3. Right?
everything falls into place.
Well, what it is, but you have to understand, what does it mean to form place?
The Terminators.
The Terminators. The termination, so that is a phase at the end. In other words, the tikkun is like 95% done. So therefore, what's the main focus? So the focus is always to do the tikkun. But here the focus, the termination phase, is to bring the Mashiach. And that requires certain requirements. Certain things that have to happen. So there's 2 dinim here, as they say. The termination phase is the finishing of the tikkun process itself. And as part of that, it's also to allow the Mashiach to enter and to begin the last tekufa.
Are we racing against the clock? Is it a thing that like
Racing against the clock.
What I mean by that is it an Indian for us? I mean, it always is, but is our job now to try to bring Mashiach before the ace?
We will not bring the Mashiach before Ace. It's going to come an Ace.
Why? Maybe it's not Kishenna.
Okay, if you're an optimist, fine. I'm not. I'm not an optimist. Not that type of optimist.
6,000?
It's not gonna happen.
Unreasonable
40
optimism.
years before.
You know what?
He's asking when is the time?
Just the requirements are just
No,
too
he said
high.
what ace was.
Who?
What, he said ace, I don't know what.
Oh, Ace means a Mashiach can come if Klal Yisrael does tshuva, repent. So we can bring him based on our acts. But what happens if Klal Yisrael doesn't do tshuva? Then there's a time that's designated that he must come by then, no matter what.
So that's 6,000.
We don't know.
No. Hold on. That's the count Ace. Ace is the designated time period in which he must appear, no matter what we do. Okay? So he's going to come. So it's Be'ito or Achishena. That's the idea, you know. And the interesting is that even Be'ito can be Achishena, can be speeded earlier. You know. So let's say Be'ito is in 10 years from now. So that also can be moved a little earlier. But Be'ito means that it's the designated time that he must be here by then, no matter what. And the Baruch Hashem will do what it takes to get him here.
So
Now,
And the Rebbe's not optimistic that he'll come before the time?
I'm not optimistic that he will come Achishena.
well, because the requirements are just too great.
Yeah, it doesn't look that way. I mean, I should be wrong, but it doesn't look that way. Now, the termination phase itself is subdivided into 3 subphases. Okay? What are the 3 subphases? First subphase is called Ikvus de Mashiach, footsteps of the Messiah. The second subphase is called Aschalta de Geula, the beginning of redemption. And the third subphase is called Yemos Mashiach, the Messianic era. Okay? You have 3 subphases. Okay? Now, what are they? Aschalta de Geula, I will tell you now, basically began in 1840. Not Aschalta, what am I talking about? Ikvus de Mashiach.
Zionist.
I need more coffee. Ikvus de Mashiach started in the Alvai, you know. Ikvus the Mashiach started in 1840. We'll get into why and all that kind of stuff. Right now, yeah. What is Ikvus the Mashiach? Ikvus is called the footsteps of the Messiah. What that means is that the Mashiach is so close that you can actually see his footsteps before they dissolve back into the mud, where you see nothing. You know? When you're very close to a person, you can actually see the imprint of his footsteps. You know, the mud, whatever he steps, you know. And then it dries up, you don't see anything. So, Ikvus Mashiach, we are so close to Mashiach that we already see his footsteps. We already see the signs.
And what does that translate to in that time period?
Right? The second thing, okay, is Aschalta de Geula. Okay, the Aschalta de Geula basically is when Mashiach ben Yosef is born. That's really what it is. And even that has two sub phases. One is when Mashiach ben Yosef is born, the real Messiah is born. And the second thing is when he knows he's the Messiah. Because the Mashiach does not know who he is. Like Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know who he was until 80 years old. Maybe he had thoughts about it. We don't know. But he had no idea who he was until the snap. He was 80 years old man, you know. So therefore, the Aschalta de Geula is first when he's born, the one who will be Mashiach. And we're looking here about Be'itoi now, right? When it will come in, he is born because it's going to happen. And the second thing is when he is made aware that he is the Mashiach.
So every generation is a Mashiach.
Yeah, but
he doesn't know who he is.
He doesn't know who he is. No. If it's not Be'itoi, he won't be crowned. In that sense, right? He won't be crowned, and that's the end of it and finished, you know.
So the real Mashiach is Mashiach ben Yosef, you're saying?
First one. Yeah, he's the real Mashiach, but he's the first one. You see. So that's Aschalta de Geula. And the next thing, Yemoseh Mashiach, is Mashiach ben David. He arrives. And that is the real Messianic era, because that's the era that you see Nisim. You know, even though the world still has Teva, but it's really, you see, incredible, miraculous. That's when Klal Yisrael, nobody has to work anymore. Everybody in Klal Yisrael is a Novi. Imagine that. You be a Novi, you know. Everybody has incredible prophecy. In fact, it says that prophecy will be so easy to acquire. You know, like it's taking like a hair out of milk. It's like nothing. You just have to sit down and there you are. You're a Novi. You're a Novi as big as all the Nevi'im. No problem. It's an unbelievable thing, you know.
That hasn't started yet.
No.
That's for sure.
Although there's some people that think they are.
For some of you.
Yeah.
We can direct those to Rabbi.
Huh? Yeah. Oh, yeah. The other part of me. So the Yemoseh Mashiach is a time that is just beyond belief.
Wait, so 1840, I mean, when is the period when Mashiach has to have been born? Are we in the point right now?
Well, wait. So the question is where are we located now? So I told you as a starting point, 1840 starts the Ikvus Mashiach. And I'll talk about it.
That's Industrial Revolution. So
Who?
Industrial Revolution.
A lot of stuff, yeah. There's a lot of stuff.
It's not when the Or came down. Rabbi said that happened in 1400s already.
Who?
The Or.
Yeah. So you have, and then so the question. So you have that start. The question is, okay, what about Aschalta de Geula? Is the Mashiach born? Is he alive today? The one who will experience the Be'itoi.
Maybe.
You know what I'm saying? I think yes. The question then is, does he know who he is? I don't know. Because you have to understand what he is, what he has to go through to understand. You know, does he had the time come when the Baruch Hashem says, "You're the man," like he said to Moshe Rabbeinu, you know. And Mashiach ben Yosef's tekufa is a certain amount of time. And after that, then Mashiach ben David arrives. You see, basically, that's it. And then you have the Messianic era. And then the world ends in the year 6000.
End meaning.
What?
What does end mean?
What does that mean?
What does end mean?
Oh, it ends.
Over.
It's over. What do you think? It'll go on forever? Nothing. Only diamonds are forever, and nothing else is forever. Right? So, to give you a more greater view, so what happens after 6000? So that's called the Elef HaShvi, the 7,000th year. 7,000th year is very interesting kufa, but the main idea of the 7,000th year, there's a lot of stuff, but main idea of the 7,000th year, so the Mashiach ends in the year 6,000, which by the way is the English year 2240, if you need a date. By the time 2240 arrives, we are in what now, 2014,
14 still.
right? So in 2240, which is what?
A few more generations.
226.
26 years to go, not much. By the world's cheshbon, it's not much at all, you know. In 226, if you go backwards, how was that? 1776? It's the American Revolution, you know. It's nothing to really think about, you know. So the world ends in the year 6,000, okay, and number one, and the Elef HaShvi, the 7,000th year begins. What happens there is that all the neshamas that will live, okay, are removed. Well, actually, what really happens is the Yom Hadin Hagol V'Noira, the awesome day of judgment. And boy, is that going to be a spectacle. Why does it have to? There are 3 judgment days in a person's life. Every Rosh Hashanah is a judgment day. You know that, right? When he dies, there's a judgment because he's in the middle of a job. Does he have to be in his galgal? Does he have to go back and to reincarnate? And then the last judgment day is 6,000. Why? Because a person is judged not only what he does, but on his acts and his influences. If a person was a great man and influenced so many people to do tov, right? Then that's all accounted for his merit. So we don't really know where a person stands until the end. You see?
So at that point, there's no place to reincarnate.
No, then it's over. There's no reincarnation. It's over with. So therefore, the sum total of a person's actions, everything, whether good or bad, will be decided on that, and then his place in the future world is determined by that. If he will have a future world, and so on, is determined. Then in the 7,000th year, what happens after the 6,000 years over? The entire physical universe is destroyed, gone. And what happens is the universe begins to retransform, changes. It changes into a more spiritual plane, you know, and so on. And so therefore, that takes place the 7,000th year, the 8,000th year, and the 9,000th year.
Going up in worlds.
There's a transformation or retransformation for 3,000 years. Okay? That's what happens. And by the 9,000th, the end of the 9,000th year, which is the English year, 9,00001,
There's
so
still
to speak. Who?
There's still time.
Yeah, whatever. What's the difference? Time. You know, rush. And the way it goes, you know, it's infinite, so what's the difference? You know? But by the time, so you have from 6 to 7, from 7 to 8, from 8 to 9. Starting from the 9,000th year is Olam Haba. So even after the world is over, you still need another 3,000 years. But it doesn't make a difference anymore. The main thing is to get away from, is to get into Mashiach Mendel. Then it's all over.
It's on autopilot afterwards.
Yeah, then it's all autopilot and exactly, it just automatically happens and so on. You know. So all the neshamas are taken off the planet. I mean, whatever, and that's the kufa called Chat Chorav. That the entire world, the earth is destroyed. Yeah?
Were there worlds before this?
There were, but they were spiritual, not physical. Yes, there are. There's a whole Kabbalah talks about an entire sequence. I would need to give a Shem Kabbalah, you know that? You guys want Shem Kabbalah?
Yes, sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Wow.
Yes.
Bigger resounding yes.
Sunday mornings.
What?
Sunday mornings.
Sunday morning.
Anytime. Man.
That's something to think about. Anyway, Kabbalah recognizes a series of events. It's an involvement of the universe. And so really what this really is, because Olam Haba was the first thing created. Right? Olam Haba was the first thing created. And then that was sort of degraded into Olam Hazeh. What this really is the reversal. Once the Tikkun has been complete, then Olam Hazeh, it now retransforms. It's the opposite. It now goes up the stages that went down, and now it reverses and goes up. And by the year of 9001, we now have Olam Haba. You see. So the fundamental phenomenon that takes place in that time is called Zikuch. Zikuch means purification, which means the physical universe is purified. You see. So the universe is purified in the 7,000th year. But the neshama, the guf of a neshama, is purified in the subsequent 2,000 years. You see. So therefore, by the time you reach the 9,000th year, then the world is retransformed totally, including the individual and his body, and he is now has whatever state he's in to experience.
It's still a physical, sort of speak.
So what?
So there's still some sort of body?
Yes. According to Kabbalah, there will be a physical body, but it's not physical. In other words, you will have a distinct outer shell where the body will become incredibly translucent. It's like wearing a plastic body, you know. In other words, the neshama will totally dominate. And when you see a person, you could see his neshama.
What's the point of a body anymore?
Because the Russian wants to reward the body for the fact that it was part of the Tikkun process.
But it was destroyed when the world was destroyed, wasn't it?
No. The world was destroyed, and the world goes through a zikuch. But the body was not destroyed. The body of a person, which we will retain in the 7,000th year, is the equivalent of Moshe Rabbeinu when he went to Shemayim. Means the body is there, physical, but it exerts nothing on the neshama. In fact, it's an equality. See, right now the body dominates. The neshama, you don't even see any neshama. But in that 1,000th year, the body and the neshama will be equal.
How is it equal if it's not doing anything?
So neither. Both of them are sort of like inert. The body is there, like Moshe Rabbeinu, there was no physical drives, nothing whatsoever, but he had a physical body. The Zikuch HaGuf, the purification of the physical body, begins in the 8,000th year, and then the 9,000th year, and then by the 10,000th year, the body is a complete translucent covering of the neshama. And in that state, a person will be in Olam Haba for all time.
So the question is,
that's the basic map, timeline of before Adam until the 9,000th year. Got that timeline? That gives you a real great bird's eye view of the history of the creation itself.
the body. I said before that the Ramchal says that that once the body has the zoama, it has to be destroyed.
Yes.
And recreated. So then the body is destroyed. That's question one. Question two is...
That's in... Before the Mashiach comes, when a person dies, his body...
disintegrates. All the other Gilgul that he had, those bodies are gone.
Yeah.
So then what's this body that's...
What? That's a different question. What?
What's the body he's going to get that's going to be in this dakik?
Whatever body he gets up with.
Oh, you mean by Mason?
Yeah, exactly, of course. Tchias Mason means you get up with a body. That body is yours to keep.
So what's Tchias Mason after? So people who come in from should be us, but the people come into Mashiach.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to die first also?
Yes. Everybody.
And that's at the end of 6,000.
No. Tchias Mason is the beginning of Yemos HaMashiach by David HaMelech.
So when did the people who walked in, so to speak, to Mashiach...
Nobody walks in. Nobody's born. All the Neshamas have been born already.
I'm saying, but let's say Mr. Shem Atz, right? Mr. Shem Rizachah to Mashiach.
Yeah.
Now Mashiach comes and we go with Mashiach to Eretz Yisrael. Now what happens to us? Because we're in this body, this current body that we have. So what happens to this body?
You're talking about Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David.
Let's say Mashiach ben
when Mashiach ben David comes, all the Jews are in Eretz Yisrael.
But I'm saying this body that we have right now, unfortunately, has a Zohar.
Yes.
So then, but let's say...
So we will
Mashiach comes.
Okay. So we all go to Eretz Yisrael.
Right.
Get discount tickets on the El Al. Right. We all go to Eretz Yisrael.
Right.
Oh, fine. And in the what?
Not even Mashiach can do that. Not an El Al.
He'll resurrect Tower Air.
That's what
Oh, the glitch.
Metallic was such a-
Anyway, so we go with Mashiach to Eretz Yisrael.
Yeah, so in the Kufa Mashiach ben Yosef, none of this happens. Mashiach ben Yosef, it's an incredibly difficult time.
That's Mashiach ben Yosef.
Yes.
He brings us all to Eretz Yisrael. We're living in Eretz
Once
Yisrael.
Mashiach ben David comes, right?
You all die?
Then whoever's alive when he comes dies for 2 hours. And for 2 hours, after 2 hours you get up. Because, when Kessin happens,
This is what happened
whoever's
with
dead will get up, and whoever is alive will
Reset.
die, and
Get up with
Zoyma
a new body.
disappears, come up with a new body. Without Zoyma, yes.
So basically, it's
But
like
Zikuch,
Sinai.
yeah, but Zikuch,
So
yeah,
I want to
that's
understand
right.
what had this body. Okay.
Yeah, but Zikuch will not happen until the 8,000th year.
I read that there was like this collection of accounts of Dibukim, the situations with the Dibuk.
Dibuk, yeah.
Yeah. So each account had one thing in common, where like wherever the Dibuk usually would stay in the stomach area or something like that, and the stomach would be swollen. So the author was inferring from that the Dibuk, that neshama, whatever it was, had some mass, had some sort of physicality to it. It was mostly, and also when it left, it would leave through the nail.
Yeah, it was
and the nail would
probably,
fly.
yeah. It's probably a nefesh tachtoina, which is physical.
What nefesh tachtoina is
Every person has a nefesh elyoina, nefesh tachtoina. The nefesh tachtoina is a real thing. That's the life force, and that's a physical thing, and that resides in the blood, which we cannot detect. That it is so subtle, but everything has a life force that's in the adam hu nefesh, and that life force is physical. It's not spiritual. See, so it could be that dibuk, which really a dibuk is really a ghost that can inhabit.
So ghost is not involved in the Shama.
No, it's not a shaman. Probably it's a.
So it's nothing to do with the person himself.
No, it is the person.
So, but the person is still attached.
I'm
to
getting away from what I want to say about it. This is like.
That's for the Kabbalah share.
Yeah, it's like you can go all ways with this kind of shit. It's like.
No, let's focus.
I want to, I'm trying to give you a feel of the tekufas, of what it's all about, and what will happen, and so on.
So the one with the base of English is going to be Mashiach ben Yosef.
Yes.
Mashiach ben David comes, and what happens?
Well,
Let's
it's the
guess
Gog and Magog war. This is part of the major war, between Mashiach.
There's still going to be a war after Mashiach.
And Yosef, yeah.
What's today's subject? Can we focus?
So what's the whole thing with the shofar?
What I'm trying to
I'm
do
saying,
is...
what's the whole thing with the shofar, and you talk about shofar?
You need to stop. And it's like because I'll never get to what I want to talk about.
Right.
What I'm trying to talk about is the termination phase. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
Yeah, sorry. Pull back.
In any case, so there's a termination phase and sub-phases and so on, and then there's the Chat Chora, which is the Erev Hashvi. You have 2,000 years, and then you have Olam Haba. This basically is the entire, timeline of the Bria. Okay? Now, the termination phase, like I said, is a phase that is the beginning of the end. In other words, it is specifically dedicated, even though Tikkun takes place. But we are now looking at, maybe 95% of the Tikkun has been accomplished, and therefore the rest of the time is now devoted to bring Mashiach ben Yosef. That's what it is. So therefore, many things have to happen. Like a play you need to change the background in order to have the different actors do whatever they do in any given scene. So therefore, the termination phase, the beginning, the Ikvus Mashiach, is the beginning of the background that has to change. That is why in the last 150 years, 1840 to 2014, that is why there's such incredible changes in civilization. Okay, now, what's really tremendous change is the year 1990, Tafshin Nun. Okay? And what has happened since 1990 is incredible. It's unbelievable how in 24 years, how the whole world has literally changed in so many different ways. It's 24 years, that's all it is.
The Gulf War, I mean.
But that is the fall of communism, basically. It's the fall of the, you know what I'm saying? It's the fall of Germany, you know what I'm saying?
Internet.
Internet. The rise of the internet, the rise of computers, the rise of the, wireless, the medical advances, the speed of science and technology is awesome and so on, Then you have the World Trade Center bombing. You have the rise of the Arabs. What's happened with it since 1989. That's when the Arabs were the Intifada, the first one. The rise of the Arabs all over the world, Then you have the rise of the Arab Rav, Paris, all these guys. Terrible Arab Rav, You have that rise and so on,
Arab Rav?
Arab Rav, yeah. Arab Rav is those Jews that wish to destroy Judaism by saying that the Torah is not the central aspect. It's the nation that's the central aspect. We can dispense with the Torah. So you have so many different things that have happened, and then the wars that Israel has had with all the Arab Rav, Hamas, you know what I'm saying? And then you have Yishmael rising, and so on, You have the beginning of the fall of Edom. The beginning of the fall of Christianity has crashed with that whole scandal and so on. There's a tremendous amount of things that have happened since 1990, whether it be political, scientific, or whatever, and so on. Tremendous amount of ideas that have happened and so on. And all of this is to create the backdrop for the Mashiach ben Yosef, the entry of the Mashiach ben Yosef. You see?
And the Rebbe,
Yeah.
The Rebbe's, I know the Rebbe has, I'm staying right on topic. And I know in the Rebbe's knowledge, no 24 period in history that before 1990 has there been such dramatic change.
Saturated.
No, I don't think so. That's what's happened in the last 24 years. Now the question is, why 1990? Are you familiar with the creation calendar? With the creation calendar, are you familiar with that? No?
Creation calendar?
Calendar, yeah. It says that the world will last 6,000 years. That's what it says. But it also says, how many days of creation were there? 6 days. There were 6 days of creation. Yes? Those equate with the 6,000 years. Because it says in Tikkun, Elef Shana Beinecha, that 1,000 years in your eyes is like 1,000 years in your eyes is like 1 day in your eyes. So therefore, 6 days to creation, 6,000 years. And that's a very important correspondence between the creation calendar, which is the 6 days, and Shabbos would be the 7th, and the 6,000 years. And you notice Chad Chorov, the Elef Hashvi, is like Shabbos, right? Well, that's the end, that the world is over. The whole avodah ceases. So it's an incredible parallel. Okay. Now, you can look at that creation calendar, but the most significant time in that calendar is Thursday night. Thursday night at 6 o'clock, let's assume the night starts at 6, is equivalent to the year 1240. 1240. A long time ago. Right? 1240. So you have the Thursday night, which is the 6th day, the last day is equivalent to the last 1,000 years. Right? When did the Thursday night begin in our calendar? Year 1240. Why is Thursday night so important? Because it's Friday. Friday's Erev Shabbos. So therefore, when Erev Shabbos hits, which is 5,000, for the year 5,000 was the year 1240, which is equivalent to this Friday of the creation calendar. When that hits, what happened is the Hachona begins. When is Erev Shabbos? When does Shabbos begin? When do you begin to prepare? Erev Shabbos. So therefore, the beginning of the Messianic era is preparation. What's called the pre-Messianic era, the real preparation, begins Thursday night at 6 o'clock, which is the year 5,000, which is the English year 1240. Got that? The Zohar says that in the year 1240, or the year 5000, right? It says in the year 1240 that the Messianic light begins to descend. Very important idea. What's the Messianic light that descended? And why 1240? Because you now understand. Because that's the beginning of Friday, which is the Hachonah for Shabbos. Therefore, the 1240 is the year that the Messianic light descends, because that is the preparation for the Mashiach himself. Got that? What is the Messianic light, fundamentally? The Messianic light is an understanding of physical reality, how it's connected to its spiritual roots. Okay? So there's certain things that happen as a result. First thing is in 1290 was the discovery of the Zohar. The Or Mashiach really is Kabbalah. I'll be right out with it. The Or Mashiach is really Kabbalah. But it's a Kabbalah of, when we look at the Zohar or the Eitz Chaim or any of these forms skim the surface, really, what the spiritual universe is all about. It's all surface, you see. So therefore the Zohar was discovered right at that time, the year 1290, and so on. So therefore, that was the discovery of the text, and then it began to grow. But what is the Messianic light?
Who discovered it?
The Zohar?
Yeah.
Well, the Moshe de Leon, he discovered it, and then there was a whole argument about that. But Moshe de Leon discovered the Zohar. There's a whole story about what did he really discover? Did he write it? Did he not write it? There's a whole the authenticity of the Zohar, whatever. Anyway, as far as we're concerned, it's the authentic document, and so on. I mean, the Ramban, the Ari, I mean, the Vilna Gaon, I mean, believe me, nothing fake could have gone past them. Nothing. I mean, I'd say, God would not have misled Klal Yisrael for 800, 900 years if this was a fake document. It's so absurd even to think about that. But
So
in any case,
written by Oshun Yochai.
what?
So they have written Oshun Yochai.
Yeah. The one that was written, I mean, by his Talmidim, but it's the ideas and the material of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And that was 1290. Not bad. 1240, right? You see? But what really came down is the Messianic light. What is the Messianic light? There's two dinim here. One is the material of the Messianic light really is Kabbalah. That's the material itself. What is Kabbalah? Kabbalah is fundamentally the study of the spiritual universe and its connection to God on one side and the physical universe on the other. That's all it is. Kabbalah is a study of what's called the spiritual domains and its evolvement. How did it evolve? Right? How does it connect to the Baruch Shalom, to the physical? And how does the Baruch Shalom use the Kabbalistic entities and so on? That's really all it is. That's all. But the real Messianic light is not just the study of Kabbalah. It's a magnifying glass. What is a magnifying glass? What does that mean? It means that what the Messianic light does, imagine a magnifying glass, on anything you put it on, it will magnify it, enlarge. What the Messianic light fundamentally does is it will reveal the ultimate structure of anything it's placed on. It will reveal the pneumius of everything, that you look with that ore. So if you're into Torah, you're going to see the pneumius of Torah, which is Kabbalah. If you take that magnifying glass and you put it on the chokhmah of the physical world, it will be science. Science is the Messianic light, but it's the ore of the Messianic light as applied to the physical universe material. And therefore, all of a sudden, science begins in the year 1240, more or less. Who's the beginning of science, really? A guy named Roger Bacon. Roger Bacon was the guy who broke away from Aristotle, and he began the whole scientific method. And he lived in the year 1240.
That was my first guess.
What? What was that?
I was going to say Aristotle. I would think that Aristotle was the founder of science.
Well, no, he was the founder of logic and thinking. He was the founder of science, but that was a primitive science. Aristotle never performed experiments. He's an armchair experiment, and so on. And then they got away from that. And what happened is Roger Bacon formulated the whole concept of a scientific method, how you experiment, how you test, and so on. Aristotle did it all by his thinking, and he was wrong so many times. And whenever it came to science, he was wrong. Anyway, but the Greek science was certainly the beginning in terms of that kufa. But remember what the Or Mashiach is. The Or Mashiach is the ability to look at any chokhmah and to see its pnimius. That's the Or Mashiach. So in the Torah world, in the Torah world, there was Kabbalah, and in the Goyish world, there was science, because that's what it means, that the influence of the Or Mashiach comes down and will affect both sides. But what also was affected was very interesting. Remember, the concept of the Messianic light is not just the concept of pnimius. It is the concept of tiferes, beauty. Beauty is what? Beauty is to be able to not look at things as fragments, but to look at things in its holistic. You see, that's what beauty is, where many different parts come together as one entity. Therefore, the Torah itself began to assume a new shape, a new organization. Who was the greatest? And you see that Torah began to change in terms of its presentation format. The first one that changed it was the Rif, where he excluded a lot of Gemaras. Then along came the Rambam, and he just did away with the whole format of the Gemara, right? The Mishnah Torah. He restructured the whole Gemara. Why? And the answer is, that's the Or Mashiach. The Or Mashiach, and the Rambam lived in 1240. Once you have this all coming down, it has enormous repercussions for Goyim and for Jews. For Jews, it's Kabbalah, and also to restructure or to change the format of Torah, you see. And that's the Rambam. It's unheard of what the Rambam did. And then for Goyim, it's science. But it's all Or Mashiach. It's funny, even science couldn't move ahead without the Or Mashiach. You see? And that Or Mashiach is an incredible pressure, hashposh, influence, to begin to see pnimius, to reorder everything into its big picture. And that began to grow by leaps and bounds. You see? So that's how it started, the Or Mashiach and so on. And of course, from that also, Europe changed, the world changed from the medieval period, and then you had the Renaissance. The world changed radically from primitive, from the pre-Middle Ages, and it became the Renaissance and Reformation started and so on. Things change. Anyway, that's Thursday night at 6. Okay? And then it begins to get more and more. And then all of a sudden you have dawn. Dawn on that Friday. So let's move 12 hours ahead. So that's what, 5,500. What English year was that? 1740. What happened in 1740? Unbelievable. Newton. Along comes Newton, revolutionizes science. He died in 1725, but his influence revolutionized the beginning of science. Newton is the father of modern science. Why? Again, because in the 24-hour period of Friday, dawn, right, was 1740, which is 5,500. That means the ore is coming down in enormous abundance. And therefore, from then, it begins to grow by leaps and bounds. Very interesting Zohar that it says by Noach, in the 600th year of the life of Noach, Niftechu, the windows of heaven were opened, and so on. So the Zohar says that from here we learn that in the 600th year of the Elef HaShishi, in the 6,000th year, which is what? 5,600. 600 year of the 5,000th year, that was 1840. There will be an enormous Hispashtus Chochmah. What is that? The Industrial Revolution. Incredible. The whole world changed. It went from an agricultural society to an industrial society. And that's had incredible movements in science. Michael Faraday, and all these guys lived, what's his name? Maxwell. Maxwell and his equations, Einstein, I mean, it's like the way all of a sudden in quantum mechanics and theoretical physics, I mean, everything just takes off. It's unbelievable. Because that's the Hispashtus Chorah. The pnimius of the Bria is being revealed. But what's the problem? The problem is that the Or Mashiach is now focused on Chochmah Chitzoyna, on Goy, on science and technology. It is not focused on Judaism. The Or was switched. The Koshnus Maggid says, on this Zohar, that if the Jews are Zoicha, we will get the Or. And if the Jews are not Zoicha, the Goyim will get the Or. So who got the Or? The Goyim. And that's why you see this unparalleled growth in science. Beyond belief.
6,000 could have gone to either or.
It could have gone either way.
600,
Yeah.
I mean.
Correct, yeah. But I always like to say, we didn't totally lose out. Oh, we really lost out. But there was something that came to us. You know, the question is what? You see. So the Goyim got, from 1840, a development of science that we've never seen. You know, like I say, you know, what's the difference between a man who lived in 1840 or a man who lived in 1840 BC? Not much. You know, different clothing, you know, and so it wasn't much of a difference. But what's the difference between a guy who lives in 1840 and 2014?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, what? It's like, it's a different human almost, you know? But not cell phones and computers and, you know, MRIs and talking about television and
For the person, the
spaceships.
body itself
Yeah,
is
exactly.
being
Talking about, it's,
Helicopter.
it's unbelievable, you
the
know?
body itself is being tampered with technology.
The body itself is what?
First pacemakers, but now they're already starting to wire people up to cure the blindness, to cure.
It's beyond belief. So take a look what happens. So 1840 is what? Is 1840 is it's actually Netzachama and so on. So science begins to grow by leaps and bounds. It's unbelievable. Why? What makes science grow by leaps and bounds? And the answer is the Oragonos. That's what it is. It's the shefa, the incredible power, the energy of that ore will make mankind see unbelievable pnimius. And science really is pnimius, where they understand and so on. You know. So that's what's been going on. I mean, you know, what's between 1840 and 2014, the world is.
The Rabbi said there's more
Now, but we also got something. And I have a theory. What did the Jews get? So the old Mashiach was going to science and technology and all that stuff, physics, chemistry. It was just beyond belief what's happening in the Goyish world and so on. But we didn't get left out totally, although we are a million miles behind the Goyim in terms of that old Mashiach influence. What do we get? You know how we got? We got Rabbi Chaim. Rabbi Chaim Brisker Derech. He is really, in many ways, very similar to scientific method. Except you don't experiment with Torah because it's not an experiment. But what it is the ability to analyze with an extreme depth the principles of halachas and so on. That, I believe Reb Chaim is the counter to Einstein in that sense. He revolutionized physics, and Reb Chaim revolutionized the study of Torah in that sense. So you know, so I believe we got, but you know, and we're so far ahead, we're so far behind what they're doing and so on. Anyway, until we get to 1990. 1990, or rather 1989, Rosh Hashanah, is Chatzois. Chatzois of Friday. Friday at 12 noon. Wow. The sun sets at 12 noon, and it begins to set, never to rise again. We are in the last, what's called 6 hours of creation. We are in the last 250 years. In 1990. So anybody who knew this stuff knew that 1990, the world is going to incredibly change. Did it? Wow.
Internet.
In fact, it's been all going on since 1989. I mean, look at what happened. You know, you have computers, you have internet. You know, you have the fall of communism, the fall of Germany. You know what I'm saying? You have that. You know, you have the rise of the Arabs, the Intifada in 1989. You know, in every single area, there was an unbelievable change. Why Chatzos? Because the sun begins to set on the last day, and therefore the Or Rishon, or the Or HaGonos, comes down in incredible quantity. And that's why science is growing by leaps and bounds, you see. And we were still, whatever.
I see it in a little bit of a scarier way, though.
Yeah?
Never before in history have we been in such an easy state to have our society overturned.
Well, okay,
I mean,
yeah.
nuclear war, computer, just taking computer viruses, all these kind of things, easily.
Yeah, well, that will always be.
Go Gamogo.
Yeah, well,
No, I'm saying.
anyway, 1990. That's the pivotal change here because it's equivalent to 12 o'clock noon on the creation calendar. And the sun begins to set. But the interesting thing about that, 1990, fine. But, we don't daven mincha until 6:30, because the sun has to, when it's on the meridian, as they say, you don't see. But you need at least a half hour to see the incline of the sun, and we're past that. We are I think 12:35 on the. You can actually 42 years and 8 months is exactly 1 hour of that. 42 years and 8 months on our clock is 1 hour on the creation calendar. So and so on, so a half hour would be how much? 42 years is what?
21 years.
21 years and 4 months. Yeah.
Yes.
So from 1990 until now, what is it?
2011.
24 years. So we are past the half hour already. And that's why what you're seeing is incredible. Yeah. So we are really 12:35. You can actually calculate exactly. Every 42 years and 8 months is 1 hour on the creation. So if 1990 is Chatzos, so 1989 in September was Chatzos. By the way, the Berlin Wall collapsed 2 months later, right after that. Right after 1989, Berlin Wall collapsed on November 9th, 1989. That was a radical departure and so on. But in any case, what we see, therefore, is we are now, I think it's 12:35. You can actually calculate it, But that's already after 6:30. And that's why you're looking at such unbelievable change. Beyond belief what is going on. The speed of what's happening is just, it's, I hate to use the word, it's breathtaking. So, we are Ikvis the Mashiach, and we are getting mighty close.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. So we're meeting next week?
Yes.